Greetings, I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and today I'm going to talk about the prequels. I know that there are many passionate fans on both sides of the prequels. There are people that absolutely cannot stand the even existence of them, and there are people that love them quite a bit. I tend to be more towards the hate side, but I also can acknowledge things through them. And like what I did with Aftermath when I reviewed it, I like to sit down and try to think of what's positive first. And so today, I thought it would be kind of fun to do a little top 5 list of the 5 things that I love about the prequels. The special effects in the prequels are a little bit of a hot topic issue. You see a lot of people who complain about the use of too much green screen, the choreographed nature of the lightsaber battles, not enough practical effects, so much so that a selling point for Force Awakens has been that look at all the practical effects we're using. You don't need to worry about all of that green screen, all that movie magic that was used in the prequels. We're going to do real stuff. You see a lot of that in it, and that's great. I love the use of the practical effects. I'm excited to see that use of it in the same way of the original trilogy. But that's not to say that the effects in the prequels were bad. Could have George Lucas used more practical effects? Absolutely. But what he did do is bring some of the best effects we'd seen at the time. Some of them are a little outdated at this point because a lot of that was new technology. It was incredible what they did. Bringing to life Yoda in episode 2 and 3 and having him be able to battle. The pod race scene in episode 1. The underwater submarine adventure, I guess is the best way to call it, in episode 1 with the guns, the droids, all of them were good looking. Now, we may not love the characters. I mean, the guns were annoying, just like many of the prequel alien creatures were, but they still looked great. It's something that I think was really well done, and while I'm excited for the practical effects, I will definitely look back at the prequels and say, George did a great job with the effects in this trilogy. Obi-Wan Kenobi has always been one of my favorite characters from the Star Wars universe. I had the action figure for old Ben Kenobi, and always loved to have him fighting any character that I had, and he's one of the cooler pieces of the original trilogy, in that it was kind of our glimpse into what the old Jedi were. So when Phantom Menace was announced, and that Obi-Wan would be a major character in it, needless to say, I was pretty excited. I think, as a whole, Obi-Wan is very in Phantom Menace. But in the other 2 movies, I think Ewan McGregor does stand above the bad script, the bad direction, the bad dialogue, and really does bring us a very good performance as a whole. Obi-Wan is an interesting character, and going forward, I would love to see a standalone movie with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. Use Star Wars, the comic number 7. Use that as your guideline, and give me Ben Kenobi movie, please. That is something I would love to see. In the original trilogy, if you were pretending to be a Jedi or a Sith, you had 3 choices. Red lightsaber, blue lightsaber, green lightsaber. Well, we got to see something pretty cool in the prequels, in that we got to see cool new lightsabers and new lightsaber shapes, and that was something that really stuck out. I remember the moment when Darth Maul, and he's about to fight Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he reveals the double-bladed lightsaber, and that was kind of just like this huge revelation of, wow, we can see new and different lightsabers. And I know there have been a lot of different lightsabers and stuff in the expanded universe before that, but as a kid, I didn't know a lot of those things. And that was the first time I was like, you can see so many cool different lightsabers. And then we got Dooku's curved lightsaber hilts that were really, really cool. We got just different colors and different things. And so that was something in the prequels that I really loved to see, was that they brought forward a lot of uniqueness in the lightsabers. Speaking of the wielder of the double-bladed lightsaber, Darth Maul is the coolest character in the prequels. There's really no question about that. He is something that has just so much mystery around him. He's dark. He kicked major butt. It was just one of the coolest characters that came out of George's mind in these trilogy, and it's a shame that they killed him. It is a shame that they did not let him stay alive through the trilogy, because that probably would have fixed a lot of holes. You had to introduce new villains in every movie, and that really bogged down the trilogy in a bit. If you had this Darth Vader-esque villain that went through all three, that would have probably been pretty cool. But despite Maul's death in Phantom Menace, he's not really dead, as we know in canon. If you've watched the Clone Wars animated series, you know that Darth Maul is very much alive and kicking. He has comics, and there's just so much story to tell from him, because he's just a character that didn't deserve to go out in that way. I've said many times in my videos that I am very interested in how the Empire was run. We've seen a lot in the canon novels, a lot in the comics of behind the scenes. And so I'm very interested in the Empire and its creation. That's why one of my favorite things about the prequels is the fact that we get to see a little bit of the growth of Palpatine. We see him as starting as a senator, moving up as he goes to chancellor, and eventually becomes the emperor as he gains power, as he holds on to power. I would have liked to see more, honestly, and that's why I love the behind the scenes in books like Tarkin and Lords of the Sith, his character evolving in the Clone Wars TV show as a whole, because Palpatine is just a very interesting character. What makes him the best part of the prequels is simply because Ian McDiarmid does a fantastic job with cheesy, terrible lines, and aside from only one or two, he makes them believable. I believe that Ian McDiarmid's Palpatine could turn a Jedi, even one that doesn't seem to have any reason, which Anakin doesn't unless you really watch the Clone Wars. The prequels on themselves, it makes very little sense why Anakin would turn, but you don't get that, but you believe that Palpatine could, and that's something that's so greatly performed by McDiarmid. As a whole, Palpatine is just the best character in all three movies. His behind the scenes work, you can tell he's working a great plan. And as I said, go read Lords of the Sith afterwards, and you see that he's always working as a puppet master. He's always manipulating pieces, and we really see that. We see that he has been trying to work his way into power and showing his way and building this empire that will be the most dominant force in the galaxy for 30 odd years. So definitely as a whole, he is the best part of the prequels, and I could sit down and watch just for him. So where do you guys stand on the prequels? Are you part of that passionate fan base that loves them, or are you one of the people that just doesn't enjoy them? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I'm Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and may the Force be with you. Always.